The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Welcome to another Tuesday night here on Beyond Wednesdays, another Industry of Comics episode 39. About to hit that 40 mark. Ladies and gentlemen, we were supposed to have John Tyler Christopher on tonight. He had a emergency family college trip. You guys all know how it is if you've got kids that are getting ready to hit college. Sometimes even Stein and Dennis Barger had recently had to make this trip where you got to go to the college that your kid wants to go to. And when it comes to kids and Beyond Wednesdays, and when it comes to family life and work life, when it comes to Beyond Wednesdays, that always takes first place. So we're not worried about it a bit. We'll have John Tyler Christopher on here another day. So
I believe that children are our futures. We have to teach them well and let them lead the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the kind of stuff that made me president of the comic book industry.
Oh, I thought you were quoting a Whitney Houston song there.
No,
That's
she was
what I
quoting
thought.
me. I wrote that for her. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. All right, you guys, we have a great episode tonight to fill in, though. We are going to be talking about how to take advantage when opportunity knocks. And what do we mean by that, you guys?
Well, the first thing they teach you in business school is, I think, probably the first thing they teach you in elementary school about making decisions of purchasing. It's called opportunity cost. But that's not just a financial quid pro quo. Like if I spend 50 cents for candy instead of a soda, God, that's how long ago I learned it. It's not necessarily just that. There are lots of opportunities. There's lots of costs. I'll just give you the biggest one for people in our industry, and for me and for all three of us. San Diego Comic-Con. It's a huge opportunity that comes with a huge cost, and you're 2 out of the 3 panelists had a giant downside to taking that opportunity cost. Brian got effed on his rental car, and I got effed by FedEx. And neither of us have been made whole. But we took the opportunity, and we spent the cost, and we almost reaped the rewards, just a little outside, and then whatever you think you made, it disappears with one poof.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny in the first, when I went to business school, the first thing they taught you was the penny rule, right? Is it better to be a penny short or a penny over in your cash register? And we spent the whole day of everybody agreeing and disagreeing. And at the end, the concept is, okay, more than worry about that penny, but if you have, Nordstrom has 10,000 registers. Okay, well, you take that time per day, per week, per month, per year. And in the comic book world, we don't have that luxury of the penny in the drawer. We have to always be selling and taking care of opportunities. And in the comic book world, there's this thing that we're then getting into about the guys and gals that take advantage of the opportunities 365 days a year, or the people that just assume that convention is an opportunity. And that's the difference between a good portion of the bestsellers in our industry and you could call them the basic sellers in the industry.
Well,
so
the perfect example of that is New York Comic-Con. We just had it. There's a ton of people, and of course that's why we're trying to bring JTC on so that we could talk to him about his specific little dot on that convention scene. But how many people know people that they follow on Instagram, and they spent the month leading up to New York Comic-Con? Oh man, I'm getting all these books ready. Oh, I'm getting this variant ready. Oh, I'm doing pre-sales for this. Oh, everybody get in line. Guess what? I didn't hear about a single one of the other books. All I heard about was Peach Momoko's Spawn for the entire week before and the 2 weeks after. So whatever you thought you were making a splash on that event, you made zero impact.
Right.
Your pebble dropped in the third wave of the giant Peach Momoko Todd McFarlane spawn ripple, and it just got absorbed and washed away. So
Yeah,
sorry, Jesse.
No, go
And
ahead.
that was some of those people's only thing for a month on either side, 2 months on either side.
Right.
They got absorbed in the ripple, and that was their only thing.
Right. And I think the problem is how many people all call to come on the show, and they're so, oh man, I can't do anything. I got New York in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you need to do business today.
Yeah.
And when what happens is not only are they in the hole for the cost to do New York Comic Con, they put themselves in the hole for not doing business for 3 weeks. So then what happens is they make XYZ, but when they minus out what they lost for 3 weeks and then the cost, they might break even. And breaking even, I can't think of any circumstance where breaking even is a win in retail or in business.
Because here's the thing. Whatever a break even is dollar wise, it's zero on time and expenditure of effort.
Sure.
So any time that you broke even financially, you have not equated for your time and the effort you expended to get that break even. That means you're at a negative if you're breaking even.
Yeah. That's a big thing that I learned that was like a mind-blowing lesson was, what is your time really worth to you? Is your time worth what you get paid at your job? Is your time worth more than that, what you get paid at your job? Is your time even have a value to it that you can put on it? You know what I mean? Like, what is that time worth? Are you being taken away from your family? Do you have a family to be taken away from? Are you being taken away from, something more important? If not, what is that time worth then? There's so many things and then you think about it and you're never getting that time back, which is the hardest part to understand.
Right. And if you want to understand time, YouTube did a great thing. Remember when YouTube started ads, they were 3 seconds. And we said, okay, we can handle 3 seconds. And then what they do, they moved it up to 5 seconds. And our mind said, well, it's only 2 more seconds. And then they hit 7 seconds. And so now our time is, do I want to wait 7 seconds to actually watch the program? Now the time, believe it or not, is 13 seconds. So they went from 3 seconds to 13 seconds.
Here's the thing. So
they're prime.
Jesse, I have one of my accounts, which is my ghost account, that it has zero affiliation other than it knows who I am through the algorithm. But I'm not signed in. It's not under any of my Gmail accounts or anything. It's the one that I have on my big screen in the other room. I get on average a 5-second ad. Then I get a 30-second ad where it lets me kick out after about 15 seconds.
Right.
I've been through the entire election. I've been getting 60 and 45-second ads because I will not give them my information. So they're punishing me.
Well, that's actually, let me explain how that works. So how algorithms work is, if you're a person that went from 3, 7, 13, but you opt out at 13, every time you hit skip ad, it will not go by skip ad. But what's happening on your screen, you're allowing that promo to go the whole 58 seconds. So in the algorithms, they're being told, oh, Dennis wants to watch everything, not realizing, no, you're not hitting skip ads. And so algorithms are very funny, and we actually trick ourselves. And once you start studying it, it is amazing. If you actually read or watch the documentary on algorithms and Facebook and all that, it's amazing how we are being created to create our own time sensibility. How long is too long? When I was with Nordstrom, Blake Nordstrom would come on the floor and he would watch the floor, and he'd walk over and he'd say, hey, that person didn't get greeted. And I said, oh, I'll get someone over there. And he goes, do me a favor. Where's your, I didn't wear a watch, but he goes, pretend like you have a watch, do 1/1000 to 7 seconds. And I want you to think how long that is. And you're like, holy cow, that is a long freaking time. So we are in an age where time consumes us. And as retailers, especially in the comic book world, right? It's like selling a Hulk 181. What do you have to say in a Hulk 181 beyond one simple thing? You know, either you agree it's his first appearance, or you agree it's his second appearance, or his first book. Doesn't matter. That's all you have to say. You don't have to spend more time selling the book. And so that's kind of where we're at in this day and age. How much time do you spend? How much time do you want your customer to spend, right? My auctions that I do on eBay Live are 13 seconds. Where other people do a minute, they do 30 seconds, and they do 25 seconds. And what I'm saying in 13 seconds, because of the 5-second jump, because of the extra bid, right, which people usually wait until 3 seconds left to do the extra bid, can I give them enough to continue to be entertained, but also make them time conscious?
All right. So before we get into really deep onto this, I want to ask you guys, you know, I have on the thumbnail comic book shop buying secrets, or whatever it is, comic shop buying secrets. What are some of the secrets, quote unquote secrets, when it comes to buying collections that come into your shop, or that some of the people out there might not know on how you operate? Jesse, I know you've talked about this before, where you automatically know in your head how much you want to pay for something as soon as a person comes in. How do you come about that?
So there's it's a very easy thing where we fail when it comes to buying. And when we say we, I'm talking about me. But when I look at other people buy, let's that way. I can figure out what that collection is by letting the customer talk. Let the seller talk. Tell me about this collection. And based on them telling me about the collection without opening up a lid, I already technically know what the value of the collection is based on what they say, right? The thing that throws you off is when someone says, well, I don't know, I inherited. Okay, now we have to actually open up a lid. Now, if you've done this long enough, folks, I'm going to tell you, you can open up a lid and tell what decade the books are by just looking at the top, whether you're looking at color coding or sizing, right? Tanning on the top, there's a lot of ways to tell it. So you should be able to buy a collection within the average time of me buying a big collection. I'm talking about 5,000 to, let's say, 10,000 books, maybe 15 minutes. Is what I need to figure out that cost, or what I'm willing to offer, right? What we will find is most of the time what we're willing to offer is actually more than what the person wants to sell it for, because 99% of the people are bringing you this product to get rid of it.
Right.
Well,
and you also have to factor in, and Jesse and I have talked about this countless times on this show,
right?
So many dealers will only cherry pick.
Right.
If you are the kind of dealer who doesn't have to cherry pick and you actually want the bulk of the collection, you're going to be able to make an offer that breaks on different levels that's going to make them seem like they're getting more for this rather than just cherry pick out a handful of books.
Yeah.
And do you want to just jump right into the stuff, Brian?
No, I want to know what.
Right.
I want to continue along this. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have some more on it too. So
okay. So when a collection comes through for me, first rule, and I've had this rule for a good 15 years because you fail at it once and you learn not to. I had a Hulk 1 come in, and in hindsight, I still overplayed my hand just a bit, but it put the blood in the water that this guy was not going to nibble or bite at any price. So I looked it up, and at that time, everybody will laugh, it was worth about $1,500 for a 2.0 half detached cover. It was about a $1,500 book. And at that time, I was sitting there I basically I was buying at a much lower ratio for the big keys because I really didn't see the benefit in sinking that much money into just one book. So I went ahead and I told him, I go, well, I think if this graded out at where I think it is 2.0, it would be probably about a $1,500 book. I can't sink that much into it. I can't tie up that much cash. I'll put in 500. And they went back and forth, and they allowed me to push me up to 1,000 on that book. So my final offer was 1,000. And I realized I was, at that point, I was willing to walk, but they walked first because I emotionally was like, oh, this is the first time I've owned a Hulk 1. Oh, this is the first time a Hulk 1's walked into my store. I've got to get this book. You know, you hear like the big shows, the big, you know, Pawn Stars and Hardcore Pawn, and they're like, man, I really wanted to get this thing for my shop. Well, I was thinking that way before those shows were even on the air. And I allowed my emotion on that Hulk 1 to push me from my initial offer of 500, which at that time was still a fair offer. If they had countered at 750, I would have definitely gone for it. But as they kept pushing me, I just kept thinking, well, I could survive on that $500 profit margin. Well, what I didn't think of was how brutal the grading companies were. And if that came back a 1.5, it was only worth 1,000. I would have eaten that book at 1,000 because I would have paid for the grading fees on a Hulk 1, which at that time I think was close to $100.
Yeah.
You know, and so I allowed my emotions to get the better of me. And then I had that come to Dennis moment where I was like, you can't go chasing this stuff. There's going to be more. And since then I've had 5 Hulk 1s come through.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry. And so I immediately have to take the emotion of whatever's in that collection out of it because it's all going to come back around again.
I got a quick question. Derek says, how much do you offer for raw modern bulk? Say 2 to 4 short boxes. And I'm going to ask this in a different way. What is your in your head when somebody comes in and says, I have modern collection in short boxes? What do you pay for a short box of modern?
Let me go first, Jesse, because I'm cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell people on the phone that the lowest I'll pay is $20 a short, $40 a long. If it's a box of shredded Archie comics and funny books that have barely a spine attached, I'll still pay $20 a short, $40 a long. I don't care if it's bagged and boarded. I don't care if it's not bagged and boarded. If it's, as long as it's got a cover and it's barely hanging on, I'll pay you 20 to 40, depending on, you know, what you have.
Yeah.
And that's where I start. That's where I start.
Right. I think we're in a different situation because in Arizona, where my store is, I'm surrounded by 16 stores. Pardon me. So the average price in Arizona is 54 short, 100 for a long. That's basic. So someone walks in, you already know you're in a grand. Okay. Yeah. But, and that's in your head. But again, you got to let the person tell you the story. And the story is, yeah, exactly.
No, but sometimes you don't get the story until they come to your face to face. So you have to give them the bare minimum for what you're willing to say. And if they bring in a box of absolute shit, just buy it. It's $20 a short.
Yeah, you buy everything. You always buy everything.
You can always flip it, you know, but then, you know, and emotions do allow me to raise that price. Like, oh yeah, this is my son. He just passed away. You know, this is his collection. And I'll look through it and I go, yeah, you know what? I could do 40 a short. I could do 80 a long. The money doesn't matter to me. I'm helping them, you know, but I always, and Jesse, I'm opposite of you with the opening the box. I want to open every box. I want to give them the experience of what I'm going through when I open this. And I'll go through and I'll pull out this book and I'll explain to them why I'm pulling this book out. Because I want them to understand what this collection meant to whoever it belonged to. as well as what it's going to mean to me in my store.
Yeah, but okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How many people, in all honesty, how many people care when they walk in? Tell me the percentage that people walk in and they say, I want to sell this. I'm moving. I need to get this out of my way. Do you think they want to, and I'm asking here, do you think they want to hear a story for 15 minutes or do they want to sell their product? And so I think that's what you got to ask yourself,
but Jesse,
right?
that's where that first question comes. And I know
Right.
you skipped it, and I know it's the same question for both of us.
Right.
How much you're looking for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if they're in a hurry, they have a number. And whatever that number is, now I have to justify yes or no to that number.
Sure,
If their
exactly.
number is 20/40, I've been known to just give it to them because,
Yeah.
you know, especially if they, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Emmett's over there and he's got a good point too. He wants to make sure it's not stolen because that's scumbags.
Yeah.
You know,
we have 14 days before we technically can sell anything in Arizona. So it is a challenge. And we have in those 14 days over my 43 years of buying comics, I've had 3 collections that ended up being stolen that police reports came in with those items. And it's a good thing I didn't sell those because you do lose the item and your money. But there's so many things to it. So my questions are a little bit more direct once we get past that first array. Are they in order? Because if they're not in order, the cost factor for me is tremendous, right? Because now we got to put this in order because there is stuff. If you have a 1982 Hawkeye number 3 in there, I need to figure out, okay, is it worth the time to find 1, 2, and 4 for the set to make that a $20 set, or is this immediately going into the dollar room? The other thing, which most people don't even consider, is the bag and board part. Traditionally, and it depends on the state, for resale in Arizona, you have to re-bag and board everything, right? So if it
Why?
comes in, because it's a resale item, so
Okay.
you have to legally put it in it, and you can't sell it in its original package because it's used, right? So, but you can determine that. You use your best judgments. You know, how many people have bought you collections that said, oh, I went and bag and boarded everything so I could sell it to you. And you're thinking, man, you just spent all that money. Where most collections, again, in 43 years, I'm going to tell you the ratio, folks, that my luck has been 80% of the collections have not been in order. 80% of the collection, or probably 90% of the collections have not been bag and boarded. So when you take the labor intensity and what screws you up, especially in the retail world, especially if you're a store that is known to be a buyer, you buy that collection and an hour later, another collection comes in. So you're trying to get to this one collection, but now you got another collection. And you're trying to say, okay, is it worth it to combine these 2 collections? I know where I'm in. How do I figure it out? And then the final point I have is I've gotten to a point where it doesn't matter where I sell the collection. I'm confident that I'm going to get my money back. You have a lot of stores out there that will buy a collection. They won't buy another collection until they get their money back on this particular collection. And that's bad, right? So very interesting.
I've got boxes that I bought 5 years ago that I haven't even opened.
Yep.
Because I'm like, oh, okay, this one's going to take a lot of work. I don't even need to open this right now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, now let's get to the point of what I think is the most important point of this show, and that is, as a retailer, as a business, sourcing your inventory is always a hard thing to do. We've had shows about sourcing inventory before, but one of the main ways that comic retailers source inventory is they have to go out and find it. And what I mean by that is finding comics and things to sell. And, you know, Jesse has talked about going to Ollie's and finding stuff at Ollie's, or Dennis has talked about finding things at estate sales and auctions. And that is one of the most important ways nowadays with a lot of comic shop owners, just like George Chase last week, mentioning that they're thinking about getting away from the normal new comic book day business of selling. And if you do that, you have to go find those back issues. Now, it's always great when collections come to you, but that's feast or famine. What happens when the collections aren't coming to you? Talk about ways that you guys think about going and sourcing inventory and the opportunity of sourcing inventory. Jesse.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so there's a couple things you want to look at. First thing is what platforms are you putting your inventory on? So if you go out, if me and Dennis were to go out and say, okay, we're buying this because when customers come in, that's one way to look at. You have a limitation of what you can buy technically, because you're so one-sided on how you're pushing the product out. So with me, because I sell on multiple platforms, if I was to, right now I need to buy about 3,000 to 4,000 books a week to stay from not going out of books, right? And so turn rates, if you're looking at turn rates are usually you're going by monthly on your turn rate. So you're buying everything in groups of 4 weeks. So if what I sell per week times 4 is 12,000. So I know in a week, if I don't buy more books, in the 5th week, I won't have any books to sell because of so many platforms I have. And then what you have to do is you have to divide that stuff into what platforms pay the most, right? So ebb and flow is very interesting. If you're in a store right now and you're saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do, there's no books flowing into my store, then the problem isn't no books are coming into your store. The problem is you're not going out and finding the books. And sometimes it's not physically going out of your store. It's getting on your Facebook page and saying, hey, folks, I'm buying I'm buying anything. Hey, you moving? You know someone that's moving? Let them know. And maybe you pay them a finder's fee. We've paid out thousands of dollars I can't even imagine how much money we spent on finder fees of people saying, hey, my buddy's selling the collection. Hey, buddy, no worries. I got your back. Here's $100 credit on your new issues, or $100 bill, whatever you want to do. So your first source is your customer base. That should be your first source because they're the ones in the wild. The second thing is recognizing where those other sources are. So in Arizona, it's Zia Records and it's Half Price Books and it's
Brass Armadillo.
Yeah, Brass Armadillo, right? Those are your 4 things. Here it's Ollie's and pretty much swap meets. And so if you get that into your regular thing, like normal work, you don't even know you're doing it. We wake up on Saturday, we've hit about 10 garage sales, we've hit a estate sale, and boom, we go right to the swap meet. Or and then we have our contacts at the swap meet that we say, listen, when you get a collection, just call us. We'll come. We're then pay you premium. So if you need to get more books in, use your customer base, and then when you buy from someone, especially at a swap meet, use that as a connection to say, listen, if you're then buy something for $500, how would you like to double your money and not even sell one thing, right? And you get those options. And for here's a prime example. We've been buying from this one place. It's about an hour away. Well, he calls me up and he says, listen, I need 20 long boxes. I go, cool. We'll do a trade. Well, you want to trade me? I'll give you 3 long boxes when you get here. You can pick out whatever you want. Okay, cool. So you create these relationships so that you're always buying and there's always more food on your plate than you can actually handle. And my final point, if there's not enough food on your plate, that's what you're creating. So keep your eyes open, but create those relationships with your customers. You know, a store at its end of its reign will look back and say most of its collections came in from the customers that stopped collecting comics. And that's how it works.
Yeah. Dennis?
Okay, so first of all, I'm in a unique situation. Obviously, I brag about it every week. I've created so many different genres now that I can just sit here and wait for the collections to come. Because if I don't get a comic collection on a day, I'll get video games. I'll get manga. I'll get records. I'll get cassette tapes. I just got an amazing cassette tape collection on Sunday. So if you open up enough channels of genres, then it allows you to feed your inventory, the entirety of the inventory, one channel at a time. So I do just sit around and wait. And plus, I have a 12,000 square foot warehouse full of inventory that at any point I can just go over and start plucking stuff. We just did a consolidation in the warehouse, and I said, hey guys, we're selling a lot of Marvel Legends. Pull some Marvel Legends from the Amazon inventory and send it over to the stores. So I get 40 or 50 Marvel Legends pop in. I've got 10 boxes full of Marvel Legends from a collection I bought 2 months ago, but I'm decreasing inventory from the warehouse, shifting it from one sales platform to another, giving it a second life. We found 5 or 6 of those were actually too good for our store. They actually went back in a box to go all the way back over to eBay. So it went from Amazon to my store, back to eBay. But it took maybe a half hour to an hour to shift that. That'll be paid for when I sell that stuff in the different areas. So to answer that first part is I enjoy going out and buying. So that's why I go to flea markets, and that's why I go to. So I enjoy seeing new stuff I haven't seen before, new avenues, new deals. I bought out an entire video game collection from a seller at Youmacon, the anime convention. And I went up and I just said, how much for everything? And so he had a price. I paid it. It was $370. And when we got it back, there was 60, 70. I can't remember. I think it was closer to 7. It was basically, it came out to $4 a game. So whatever that equals, I can't do the math.
Mm-hmm.
I paid $4 a game, and we found $30 games in there. All right, awesome. I bought a collection of amiibos, and I've had people ask. I haven't gotten any collections of amiibos. Are these little things that you can play Smash Brothers with in different games on the Wii system, and your Switch games.
Yeah, like
Skyfall
or whatever they are, Sky Raiders or Skyrim or whatever.
Yep. So this guy had 50
Skylanders.
amiibos, and he wanted $5 a piece. And I said, how much for everything? And he said, 100 and I think he said 150, but then I ended up getting him to settle on 120. So I got $2 a piece into these. There was 4 amiibos that I didn't even realize go for like $30, $40 a piece. So instantly I now have amiibo inventory. Immediately after putting the amiibos in the case, somebody said, oh, you buy amiibos? I have a bunch I'll sell you. So that creates inventory chains. People don't know you're buying if you're not selling.
Yep. Yeah, and here's a prime example. So this is a guy I buy from a swap meet every week. I give him my number. I get this in Saturday. I don't know if you can see that. But he's basically saying, hey, I just got all these short boxes in. So where do we go Saturday? We go right back to the guy that we bought stuff. So people that you buy from swap meets at conventions, you want to create those relationships. They don't want to take stuff home, folks. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's nothing like filling up your truck, going to a convention, filling it back up, and bringing it back home. Mm-hmm. These people will sell out to you because they're calculating, okay, I've already made X, Y, Z. So if I made X, Y, Z, why do I even need this stuff, right? The second thing is I haven't made X, Y, Z, but I got to make X, Y, Z, and someone's willing to buy everything. So how do I do this to make an extra dollar on this convention? So it's not technically about the buy. It's about how you create the relationships for the next buy. Brian knows about a story I did probably about 5 years ago. I should send you guys the video. But there was a house sale, an estate sale. And it was by invite only. And there was 5 retailers that were invited. I was the 5th guy. And I got there, and no joke, the whole house was comic books and collectibles. his refrigerator didn't have power, but he had statues in the refrigerator, right? It was so bad that I can't even explain it, but there was so much stuff. This is the collection, Brian, where I bought all the cards, and I didn't know wrappers were all the wrappers came with them open, and I didn't know wrappers were worth anything, so I threw out all the wrappers. I'm like, why? Who keeps 1966 Batman wrappers? This is ridiculous. Throw them out, right? So, anyways, 5 bidders. I was actually.
Jesse, can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
Chat and everybody watching this, never throw away anything.
Yeah, never throw it. So I learned from that. And so I was actually the lowest bidder, but I had the best experience as far as speaking to them, and they ended up going with me. But the thing was, it took 2 trucks to get the stuff over. Nothing was in order. And the notion was I was being interviewed by someone. I forgot who interviewed me about this big sale. And they said, well, what's your next plan? I said, well, I'm going to drop this off and I got to go buy more books. I got to find more books. This is cool, but this only lasts me 2 months. So I got to go out. And so you always have this mentality. If you can, number 1, if you can afford it. Number 2, if you have the storage for it. And number 3, you can kind of remember what you bought, right? But you're always buying, and that's what's in your mind. You're always buying. You're always seeking out opportunities. There's a big collection in Arizona. The guy is trying to sell to me, and I'm in Florida. And I'm like, dude, there's 21 stores in town. No. I want to sell to you, right? Because you get this reputation. Oh, well, it's not that I pay the most, but we have a good experience, and that's really the point. So the person you buy from, don't think it ends there. They have friends, they have family. Yeah. They're at a cocktail party, and someone brings up, man, I gotta get rid of all these comics. Oh,
so there was a question up in the beginning. What if you find? I just saw that, Hood. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Somebody said, what if they bring in a short box of nothing but keys? And actually, I had that happen. Guy and his wife came in. He had 2 short boxes, and one of the short boxes, I mean, it was loaded. It had 2 or 3 New Mutants 98s, 2 or 3 New Mutants 87s, a couple Spider-Man 300s. It was, and this was back 2015. So they hadn't exploded yet, but they were still the books to have. And I mean, other stuff that never panned out, X-Force ones, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And I went through and I was like, okay. And then the wife gave up. Well, we just took these to another store. Well, there's only one other store up the road, and I'm pretty sure. And I was like, well, whatever they offered wasn't enough to pique their interest. They said, hey, let's play the Post-it note game. And that's where I take a pen and a Post-it note, and I write down the price that I want to pay for it. And I put that in my hand, and then I hand them the Post-it note. I said, what do you want for the collection? And we're going to show each other the Post-it note at the same time. And he put on his Post-it note, and he opened up his palm, and it said $300. And I opened up my hand, and it said $600. And the wife goes, we'll take your offer. And that was, it was fun. I always enjoyed doing that. B, it told me that my competition offered him less than $300 for 2 short boxes of the best keys you could buy at that time.
You know what's funny that you just brought that up? I'm going to tell you how I became an Overstreet advisor. So I kept on getting denied. Every year they denied me, and I got it because I was brand new. But at age 12, I wanted to be an Overstreet advisor since 1982. But one day I was in a store, and I think it was in Las Vegas or whatever, and a guy brings in this New Mutants 98, and this is probably about 2010 maybe. And the guy goes, oh, You got a good day. New Overstreet just came in. Let's see how much that they have this book at $100. Now, keep in mind, this is 2010 when it's peaking. So it's selling for $400 or $500, right? So they're using the Overstreet to say this book is $100. I'm going to give you 50% of the value. And the guy's like, this is crazy. I'm thinking this book is like a $400 book. And the way I got into Overstreet, I use that as an example, saying you need someone who's modern, who knows modern day prices to get modern day prices in those books, because people are using it against the consumer. And so there are, and it's kind of funny because when people bring in keys, it is funny what people consider keys that they bring us, right? And you're talking about, and if you're talking about legacy keys, Newman's 98, ASM 300s, and I want to say this to where I'm not sounding like an ass when I say this, but if I don't buy yours, I have another 30 opportunities to buy that during the month.
Yeah.
Because every collection that comes in, trust me, has a Newman's 98 in it. It's funny. We can look at a collection and say, okay, we know where they can get that. Where they can get this. And it's always in there, right? Because everybody collected that stuff. So when it comes to keys, it really, again, the first question is, what are you looking for? And if it's in the ballpark where it's worth looking at and negotiating, then it's worth it. If not, you send them on the way.
Well, and that's also the better part of that story about me buying the Post-it note game. A lot of people would be like, damn it, Dennis, you paid $300 more than what they really wanted for that. You could have maybe renegotiated. No, guys, I was willing to pay $6 for that.
No.
And on top of that, and they knew they were getting the best deal they could get from me.
Yep.
And it was $300 better than what they expected.
Yep.
That's back to that word of mouth thing. And it never happened that I know of. But they're going to tell their friends, oh, man, I went to this one store and the guy offered me $200 and I knew it was better than that. So I took it to another store hoping to get $300 and that guy gave me $600. Who's that guy?
Yep.
Oh, it's the guy over there on that street and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing I got knocked on, Brian, for the biggest collection where I overpaid? And I got knocked on because this lady wanted $7,500 for her collection. And I said, I can't pay you $75 for your collection or $7,500 for your collection. I'll give you $25,000.
Yeah.
Right. And people destroyed me on social media. What an idiot. Right. Yep. But at some point, you have to have integrity. At some point, you have to understand that karma will come back.
Integrity is what you do when no one is watching.
Yep.
Yeah. And what did that lady do? That lady came back to you and said, hey, I have more.
Yep. And she had more. And on top of that, I get the call from the Marine the following week, which you helped me check in that collection, which was an amazing thing, folks. So we buy this at a public storage. I get a call a week later after getting bombarded with, oh, you don't know what you're doing, whatever. And this guy says, I got 100 long boxes. I'm a Marine. I've been traveling for 25 years. I'm done. There's 100 long boxes in the storage. I go, okay, how much do you want? I want 10,000. Done. Right? Because he gave me a quick story. He's been collecting since 1965. But I'm like, done. 10,000. That's I'll do it. So he gives me the address. This is crazy, folks. And this is when I talk about integrity and karma. It ends up being the storage bin right next door to the lady that I bought. Brian came in to help me do this collection.
I watched that video.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the crazy part I forgot about. In the corner, he says, listen, you see those 400 USPS mailers that were sealed? And I go, well, dude, we're just here buying stuff. I really don't want to take your stuff to the to the postal office. Oh, no, you get all that stuff. He hadn't opened up his mail in 5 years. So we were doing mail call. Yeah, crazy. And Brian was pulling out per long box a minimum of 100 to 150 keys per long box.
That's crazy.
So it in the end, I'm talking about, 50 and 80, and this is how we do it. But then you have those cases where you are listening a little bit more and you want to be righteous and you want to do the right thing. And you're saying, yeah, I could do this for $7,500 and make it just on one item that was in the collection, or I can be the smart person and say, let's work with karma. So it does work. I'm not saying this all the time, right? Maybe once or twice a year, but that's the funny part. Yep.
Shout out to Alex with that $10 super chat. He says,
Yep.
Everyone here is about integrity, experience, and comics. That's why I love the show and y'all. Thank you, Alex.
Yep.
Much love, brother.
Well,
go ahead,
okay,
Dennis.
So let's get into we're talking about opportunities.
Yeah.
And I saw Emmett over in the chat go, oh, yeah, I go to Baltimore Comic Con to buy a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to jump right into it, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So last weekend is the fall show for the Motor City Comic Con, the big show in Detroit. They have the summer show, which is the original big show. And then they just started doing a fall show. The funny part of that is they didn't do a fall show for several years. So I decided in 2009, as I just didn't feel that show was representational of my new comic book store and, the kind of books that are selling. They never had a single writer or artist that sold over 10,000 books a month. And I'm like, look, there's ways to do this. I tried to talk to the guy and he just wouldn't spend any money on anybody who was anybody. I'm like, dude, Jeff Johns is from Dearborn. You have the opportunity to just pay him whatever he wants. He'll be huge. No. Don't know who him. Never heard of him. And so there's a whole lot of other facets to this. He and I didn't get along. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put on my own convention. And I decided, and because I knew this person and that person, they were like, hey, do you want Stan Lee at your show? And I was like, yeah. Do you want Jim Starlin? Yeah. So my first show, I had Stan Lee and Jim Starlin. And this pissed him off to no end. How dare you put on a show in my city? I own Michigan. You're barred from all of my events from this point going forward. And so we had Stan, we had Jim, we had Kevin Eastman the next year. We had, just huge comic book names that were friends of mine that did me a favor or did friends of mine a favor by coming to my show. So I'm barred from the biggest show in the Detroit area. And arguably I'm one of the top 5 sellers of comic books in the Detroit area. Okay. I guess I'll just do San Diego, New York, C2E2, wherever. I have gotten some of the best collections every year during Motor City weekend because, and Emmett, I'm kind of calling you out here, because the store owners are at Motor City chasing around conventions when these collections pop up. Now this one came in a week ago, but it was the week before Motor City while everybody's prepping for the show. That collection came in. Then Friday, while the show was going on, this collection came in. Saturday, this collection came in. And when I say a collection came in, there's 8 short boxes below that have everything else in between these keys that I pulled out. And then at the end of the day, Saturday, this collection came in. Oh, I took really crappy pictures of that, didn't I?
Yeah.
And this doesn't seem like, oh, this is super exciting. But go back 2 pictures there. If you can zoom in on that top left.
Yeah, that's a tough book, signed by everybody.
Plus,
too.
it's triple signed.
Yeah,
it's triple signed. Justice League International #1, great book. First Suicide Squad, first Secret Wars. That trilogy of Green Lantern books, people don't realize how tough that is. And I get like $20 a piece for some of those issues on Amazon. All those Minty Turner, Superman, Batmans, the Carnage arc from Spider-Man, first Winter Soldier, that gorgeous, yeah. I think that's the second printing.
It is,
I can't
but it's
remember.
still good.
Yeah.
Still gorgeous. So these are the kind of collections, and I want to break down what I did with this collection.
Can I ask you a question first?
Sure.
Can you take the carpet picture there again?
GameStop.
So
GameStop
what I would suggest is after you sell all these books, go to like Carpet Barn or something. Just pick one color, bro.
No. Okay. So what you don't realize, Jesse,
It's Las Vegas floor. I know.
My location is the former GameStop location. People walk in and see that GameStop carpet. That hits an emotional cue. I can gauge it, man. They're like, oh, this used to be the GameStop, didn't it? And they're looking at the carpet, they're looking at the ceiling, they're looking at sometimes that, like, people who go to Dragon Con dress as the Dragon Con carpet. You know, there's just certain weird things. Plus I'm cheap and it's carpet.
I was gonna say, just get to the point.
Yeah.
The cheap part. But that's fine. Good. Okay, go on with your collection though.
Okay, so they contacted me midday, and like I said, I was at home, not at the Motor City Comic Con, or I was at the store, and they said, "Hey, can I send you some pictures?" And they sent me, and Jesse, I'm sure you could back this up.
Yeah.
People do not know which pictures to send you.
Oh
ever.
yeah.
And they sent me 6 pictures of this shit and 6 pictures of this shit, but I identified the era, and that it was modern books, and I knew what time frame we're looking at here. So I said, yeah, bring it in. The lowest I'll pay you is $20 a short, $40 a long. More than likely, I'll find some stuff in there. You'll get more for it. So when they ended up breaking it all down, it came out to be 9 longs total. It was short boxes and long boxes, and they had a couple totes, and they had a couple boxes full of trade paperbacks. So I pulled out the trade paperbacks. I went through the entire collection because they really wanted to see what the good stuff was. And when you do that, there's also a big, huge risk that they're going to be like, I don't like the price you're paying for the good stuff, but you can have the crap. That's fine. So I pulled out all of this stuff. There's probably another pinch of 20 books that I didn't show, but they weren't significant like any of this stuff. And like I said, it was probably about 50 books that I pulled out, plus some, the trade paperbacks was another box. And then it was the remainder of 9 long boxes. And I offered them, I want to say it was $350 for the long boxes, because it was just short of $360 because I had pulled out some books. And I gave them $200 for all of this stuff in the trade paperbacks. They never expected that was that. They came in hoping to get around $180, $200, and they walked out with $550.
Yeah.
And that's the extra kind of step is like, guys, and she said, can I get more out of you? I said, look, honestly, I don't need the 9 longs. I would really just rather buy this stuff for the $200, but I don't want to cherry pick out your good stuff and leave you with 9 long boxes of crap to load back in your car. And that's really how you break it down.
Yep.
Yeah. It's cool at the end. I try to think as a longtime collector, when I now look at pictures, I am looking at newsstands, and I never really cared. Be honest with you, until I opened up the store, didn't even know the difference between the two, because I never.
I used to think the directs were cooler, because there was Spider-Mans on them.
Yeah, Spider-Mans and the Hammer and stuff like that. And now the first thing I look at the collection, and I'm like, oh, you got Dark Claws as newsstands, which is amazing because those are big poppers right now. Most of that amalgam stuff is big poppers, especially Iron Claw, and I forgot the 3 big ones. But so I really think at the end of the day, and I've said this, and I will always say this, Dennis can go through a long box, pull out all the keys, and I guarantee you I can go behind him and say, dude, you missed 30, and vice versa, right?
And That's my favorite thing to do,
Yeah.
Jesse, is come to an estate sale 5 hours after it started. Because I didn't have the time to wake up and wait in a line, and I knew everybody was going to flood the zone early. I like to come in and see what all of the experts missed.
Yeah.
Oh, you had no idea this was worth money. Oh, you had no idea this was worth money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. You left this for me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Dennis, is I really think that's one of the reasons that comic book content like we create over here, this quote unquote speculation era of comic book content on YouTube, really took off, because not only were a lot of the retailers realized, I think at first a lot of the comic shops didn't like us, but then they realized, oh, if I follow these guys, I know those books and I have a better idea of those books. And then the publishers started following us because they go, okay, if I follow these guys, I will know what they like and what is something that I need to do.
Can you go back to those pictures, Brian?
Yeah, hold on here.
And Jesse actually might understand this, because even Emmett was like, "Oh my God, you get money for Dark Hawk?" Yeah. So go to the next one. Next one. So, do you know why I pulled this She-Hulk issue?
Yeah, because it's short print.
It is the shortest print book out of the entire the Secret Wars lead up stuff.
The Civil War.
Sorry, yeah.
And they even did a second printing of it that's even shorter print.
They did.
Yeah.
And that's even shorter print.
Yeah.
And like I remember, and when you look at the numbers, and this is back when Comic-Con still had numbers, it was the shortest print run of any book in Civil War. It was the lowest selling book to get a Civil War tie-in. And people ask me all the time, why are you buying it? Because I know how rare this book is. And I don't care if I have 5 copies or 100 copies. I expect a premium for that book.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of knowledge that you guys started catching on to. So when I was like, oh, these guys are coming close to the edge of what makes these books hot and important.
Yeah.
Like it's Savage Dragon 201 through 270. 4,000 copies made. It's crazy what they go for. That Spawn run where they drop down to less than 10,000. And so do we, as retailers, we want as much information. We might have too much information sometimes that the customer really doesn't care about.
Yep.
But our job is also to educate them. Why is that book? You know, if someone looks at a book and they look at your back wall and they don't pick anything out of your back wall, obviously they only know about legacy books. They only know about the New Mutants 98 or the 87.
Well, they don't realize that New Mutants 100 is first X-Force.
Yep.
You know, they think X-Force 1 is first X-Force, you know. Yep. The other thing that I also love doing is when I buy one of these collections and I do what I'm, you know, the pulling out and the talking about the books, I also get to educate my staff that doesn't have 40 years experience of reading this stuff, 30 years experience of selling it, 20 years experience of buying new. I get to educate them so that when I'm not around, they can explain the importance of some of these books.
Sure. I think the difference, you know, now that we're really talking about it, then we'll go into my weekend. But the difference is up to about 2008. Well, you can't really say that because there was forums. I was part of a lot of forums. We had to self-educate ourselves. Yeah. There's a lot of self-education. Now, there's these folks, Brian has them on his shows. There's these smart folks that have their own YouTube pages that are educating people as well. Do I agree that they're always right? No, that doesn't matter. They're out there doing it. That's my point. They're not going to be right every time. We're not right every time. It's like a 20-year-old trying to tell you about 1994 in the comic book world. It's like, dude, you weren't even born then. Don't give me the reasons why the comic book world collapsed. We don't need to hear your version of it, right? But the notion is people can self-educate themselves with the help of a community now. And that's the difference. And when you first start collecting, what's the first thing we say? I'm going to own every single comic book ever made. I'm going to own every single key. It doesn't work that way in the comic book world, right? And so our jobs, I think sometimes when people look at us, they say, oh, look at all the stuff they're buying. But that's our job. If you're just a collector and you're going to a swap meet and there's 5 boxes and the guy says, I'll give you all 5 boxes for $100, and you're just a collector, you're like, I only need 3 books in here.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to remember there's 2 parts of the comic book world.
Real quick,
so
before we get into Jesse's story, I want to say thank you to everybody that's hanging out with us live right now. There's 66 of you that are hanging out with us, but only 24 of you have hit that like button. So please hit that like button. We're halfway through the show. That really helps us out. And I can't thank you guys who join us in the live shows enough, especially those of you guys who are very heavy in the live chat. You guys make this a lot of fun for us to do, and we appreciate it. All right, Jesse, you're up, because this is very interesting to me.
Yeah, we'll go through that. But J-Man, so the answers we're looking for is, when does this collection start? When did you start collecting this collection, right? Well, I started collecting when I was a kid. Oh, in the 60s and the 70s, yes. Did you have any gaps during that time? Do you just collect Marvel, DC, or independent?
I don't understand his question. What is his question? What money value / criteria would you look for to retain the original owner information concerning a collection?
Well, and I actually have a few other things here.
Right.
One of the collections that I bought out of those 3 was actually a subscriber. And he actually put his subscription sleeve to the back of the book. So it had his name and his address. So I knew where the collection came from. And I knew that this was all kind of a spread during this period of time. And more importantly, it made me look very carefully at several of the books that I pulled out, because they actually had subcreases. And if you don't know what a subcrease is, Marvel and DC used to put a brown paper bag around the comic book, and sometimes the post office would fold them in half
to put them
and
in,
shove them in your box. Other times the publishers would fold them in half and put a smaller sleeve on them. So you have to look for those, because those subcreases are hard as hell to get out, and they'll also cause little tiny damage on the top and bottom of the middle of the cover or back cover. So there's a lot of other things that, when you get that information. Actually, I'll tell one of my favorite stories, guys. And I don't think I've told it on the show. So I had been getting a collection piecemealed out to me for, at that time, close to 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And it was some of the best stuff I'd ever seen. Vintage cap guns, vintage toys, really high-end comic books. And I'd been buying it, and it was all coming from different people. And I had moved into my new location in Lincoln Park, and all of a sudden I started seeing more of this collection. And I'm like, what? Okay, where's this? And it never occurred to me to look at some of the stuff. And they were subscribers to different magazines and different comic shop information books, like Comic Reader and some of these things. And when the velocity of this collection started coming to me faster and faster, and I'll add the people were starting to be shadier and shadier, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go knock on this door. And I knocked on the door, and a little old lady answered. And she had said, I go, hi, I've been buying comic book collections that had this address. And I just wanted to make sure, oh, yeah, I gave that to this person for mowing my lawn. And I gave that to this person for taking out my garbage. And I'm like, well, ma'am, I just want you to know that some of this stuff is really, really rare. And that's when I found out that a month before I came knocking on her door, a fairly unreputable comic book shop on the other side of town had backed up 3 giant box trucks to this lady's house and had pulled out probably the greatest collection in the history of Detroit. Original art, multiple copies of every comic book, just some of the best stuff ever found.
Yep. And
they left the empty boxes of stuff that they didn't want to take, and they left what they said was the junk.
Yeah,
and
that happens a lot.
And part of me says, okay, hey, if I figured out this whole look at the magazine subscription box, that came with all these books, and look at I would have been on to the greatest Discovery comic. She would have retired a millionaire. I would have made a ton of money. This comic book store, they ran her dry.
Well, you know what's crazy about that story is when we buy collections, there's a story within the story between retailers. I'm not going to mention retailers because I'm not here to promote other retailers other than Dennis. I'll buy a collection and the person will say, I've been collecting for the last 10 years. And I open it up, it's all from one store, right? And so they bought this whole collection from one store. What's the first thing that comes to mind as a retailer? This guy did 2 things. Number one, he didn't respect his customer because guess what work his customer should have gone back to sell him the books?
That guy.
Number two, he went back to the customer and said, I can't give you anything for this collection because you buy it all from me and I won't make any money off it. So what it tells me is this guy can't afford the collection. And so all of a sudden you see 3, 4 collections come in and you're able to determine your neighbors. And if they don't have buying powers, that gives you a huge advantage, right?
Well,
so there's
a couple other small little things you can glean from that, Jesse.
Yep.
And it's usually correct, sadly. If this guy has a up to the last month or last 3-month collection from one of your competitors, and there's ways to tell, little price tags on some of the back issues, you'll see it. Sometimes a receipt will be left in a bag and you'll say, oh, okay. It means he's probably stiffing your competitor with the last 3 months of polls that he probably didn't tell him. And he's bringing it to you because he just stiffed your competitor and he's selling you the books because he can't take it to your competitor.
Yep. Yeah, there's many ways. Three Rivers. What's funny about Three Rivers thing there, I forgot who asked. I'm actually both in Arizona, Florida, but my company is based worldwide, so I technically sell worldwide, but I will be back in Arizona doing things XYZ.
Another thing with that, Jesse, and it's kind of also from the chat. When you buy that collection, when you sell that collection to your customer, you received whatever it is, and just factor it in. Maybe you give a 10% discount, 20% discount. So you've made 80% off of this guy retail. And that means you have baked in a 30% profit margin that you've profited off of this guy. And let's just say he spent $10,000 with you and you made 13. Is that the right number? No, he spent 10,000.
So you made $3,000.
No. I'm doing the math wrong on this. Sorry, everybody.
Okay.
But you've made 17,000 because he got 20% discount on that is 18. So you made 18,000. You paid 10,000 for it. You made $8,000 off of this guy in the life of him. And you can do that math, or you can just kind of ballpark it. What do you owe it to that guy? I don't know, but you owe him something. You made $8,000 off of this guy.
Sure.
Is it worth throwing him 20% of what he spent with you?
Yeah,
Great
comment.
Great comment.
Here's what the customer says.
That's the way I always looked at it. I was just like, go ahead, Jess.
75%, I'm going to say even higher, 80% of the customers say to me, and going over 43 years of doing this, 75% of the customers to me have said to me, I just want to make sure, Dennis, you know what I'm going to say, right? When I said it goes to a good home.
Exactly.
That's what they say. Three Rivers was talking about signatures inside. You got to keep in mind, until 1993, until the 7 dudes over at Image started signing covers, that mind-boggling to me. But before 92, it was blasphemy to sign a cover. You did not sign covers. You signed the first page. If you're Jack Kirby, signed a lot of pages, a lot of panels, because he wanted to tell stories. So it is true, when you're buying a collection pre-91, first of all, you should be opening up all your comics. But if you're not, at least check the first page, because that's where traditionally people sign the pages. And that's historical part. A question about one-time buyers, those would be technically pedigree buyers. Pedigree
Original collection,
customers,
you mean?
Yeah. It is very tough to prove.
Yeah.
There is one question I want to ask both of you real quick. Lord of Brooklyn brings up Carbonaro, and we watched the first Pops Comics video where Pops Comics went to Carbo's house to go through the stuff. Lord of Brooklyn is saying, I've been seeing more of Carbo on Pops Comics. He has 2 garages filled with comics ranging from golden to modern. How would you get him to sell you everything all at once?
I would see if he's paid his
full of money.
taxes over the last 20 years. If not, I would send him a dark letter about not paying his. No, I'm joking. Okay.
Wow,
so,
that went dark quick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, I mean, that one.
I have 2 actors.
Right, exactly. Back in 1977, when you were in high school, I heard. No.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 things you're buying from. It's always interesting. I've bought 16 stores in my life, and when you're buying a store, it's so much different than buying from a customer. It's 2 different stories, 2 different legacies. And so when you have someone who has 2 garages, who is flamboyant, it's about, I'm going to have stuff for you. You really have to work on their ego and get them to be the better person in the cell.
And I'll tell you, can I pause you there for a second? Yeah. Right now, I said it then, and I say it now. Carbo loves the love he's getting from being on that show.
Yes. That's what I was just getting ready to say. Yep.
You cannot run a dollar amount. However, you also don't know where Carbo is right now. And part of what Jesse's joking dark side, he might have a tax bill he has to pay. He might have something that he needs the cash for. And that's why I said, if you want a guy like Carbo, the one thing he's going to respect is a suitcase full of money.
Yep.
And all you got to do is you figure out what you're willing to offer. You put that much money in a suitcase, you take it to him and go, well, Carbo, I'll look through this, and I've got this much. Well, obviously you don't want to carry that suitcase.
No, but again,
in some of the neighborhoods Carbo's in. But
right. I think it's a simple question. He would be a very simple purchase for me. It would be a very simple question.
Ooh.
What makes you happy? What number makes you happy? And how do we make sure that everybody knows about your cell?
Yeah. So
Because
Jesse,
this
is a good part to bring this up. And I don't think we've talked about it. And it kind of goes back to Nico's murder house story.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that from back in the day?
Yeah.
What's the shadiest environment you've ever bought a collection from?
Ooh, I've had some bad ones.
Yeah. But here, and how do you deal with it? And I'll tell my story first, and then you can think about it and tell a similar story. So I got called in to go look at a house. I do not like doing house calls, and this is one of the reasons why. So I had my partner pull up when he gave me the address. I had my partner pull up on Google Street View, and this thing looked like a meth shack. And the pictures that he had sent the store looked like it was a meth house carpet. And it was really cool stuff, but it was too much of a witch Hansel and Gretel situation. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm willing to pay for some stuff. So I said, here's what I want, Bob. I'm going to go look at it. I'm going to have no money on me. You're going to sit in a car about 5 blocks away. And when I call you, you're going to take that much money and you're going to bring it over to me and pull up in front. And I'm going to hand them that much money. And then I will load the stuff into my car and we will take off at that point. And you have your phone ready to call 911 if we're getting jumped. And I was not wrong. I shit you not. There was a crack pipe on the table. This guy definitely did not have, this was not this guy's stuff, but it was definitely in this house. This house was blacklight posters, and it had a whole lot of old Mego dolls and some AHI dolls and just a lot of Mego style toys. And it definitely matched the house. And I think that whoever it was that had these toys died.
Yeah.
And this guy was just using it as a flop house.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And he was selling the stuff. And so I bought everything. I want to say it was like $500 was our offer on it. It was a couple $1,000s worth of stuff, but he was definitely happy with the $500, and I'm sure it lasted him all weekend.
Yeah.
And but I was happy as hell to get out of that. And so you have to have good protocols in place. You have to have support structures. I've definitely texted my address of where I was going to look at collections.
Yeah, I always do that.
Yeah, you pull up in front of a collection and you're like, yeah, I better text like 2 or 3 people that I'm looking at a collection in the shady part of town in case I don't come back tonight.
Yeah. Oh, and you could text it to yourself too.
Yeah, I've never paid cash inside someone's house. I've said, let's go to the bank, and the bank has to be open. I'm not doing an ATM thing. And I go inside. I go outside, pay them. I take off with the product. He's got his money. You got to be very careful out there, folks. So I think there are some people you have to let their ego be the important part of the sell. And that's okay. Some retailers can't do that. They got to be top dog on the whole conversation, and you got to let those egos rise. And if you can meet them with what makes them happy with their ego, then that's how you buy collections like that. This weekend, back to the question. If you have proof of a collection, what you still got to do is if you go to a retailer doesn't care. So that's only going to work at auction houses as far as first original collections, but retailers splitting up the collection. So it doesn't matter. So this weekend, I had a great opportunity to go to a very good friend of mine's store. He every 6 months has a blowout sale in his warehouse, and it's just tens and tens of thousands of stuff. And it's rock bottom stuff. On Sunday, it's 80% off everything. Doesn't matter what it is 80% off. It is jam packed. This is Coliseum Comics. Phil is a great friend of mine. He's been doing this for 45 years. And he just blows out stuff, and he gives people great deals. Everybody's walking out with tons of stuff. At this point, he's already made his money. We bought a little over about 1,400 items this one. Now, last one we bought about 3,000, but 1,400 of better stuff, I should say. Had a good meeting with him. But again, if you're a seller and you have a ton of stuff in your store, take the opportunities to go to your customer base and say, once every quarter, where they have to have a sale. Now, 80% is a little bit too high. This is the third day. It starts off at 25, 50, and 80% at the end, but it is stacked. Now, the cool thing about this was, I've been doing this for 42 years. I've achieved a lot of stuff in my life at Just James Comics. One of the first live streamers over 9 years ago, one of the first 2 live streamers ever to live stream comic books. And I had about 200 books in my hand, and the gentleman walks over and he says, can I put those in the side for you? I go, yeah, put it under Jesse James. And about 5 people looked up and they said, are you Jesse James? And I said, yeah. So I started talking to one guy, and I'm like, I know you from Jesse James Comics. And he's like, no, I know you from you doing live streaming. No. I know you from that industry show you do. And the 5 people I talked to me actually knew me from this industry show, which I think is amazing because Bryan knows, and I haven't really talked about Dennis about this, but I'm pivoting off and I'm then be focusing on being more of a content creator on YouTube, not just comics, but everything, right? Sports, NFL, wrestling, Buc-ee's, that type of stuff. And it's interesting how we pivot our businesses, but we also pivot our personalities. So the story here is I got a lot of cool, great stuff. I learned something from a guy that just knows how to do business, second generation. His son is amazing. Brandon is awesome. But then on the flip end, I also learned that we should always be pivoting our brands in directions that make sense to us for the future.
I tell you what's crazy is seeing the warehouse with pallets on shelves of boxes of comics just wrapped like that. That's so crazy to me to see.
That's what my warehouse looked like downriver. Before I sold 25 or 24 pallets to Midtown back in 2015 or 2016. Wow. That's how I used to get rid of my bulk, was just palletize it and sell it off. Yeah. Space is funny. Space is money. And if you have stuff sitting there, it's costing you money. I know Dennis has a lot of stuff in his 12,000 square foot warehouse, but he's good at rotating his product. But there's a lot of people that I go into their warehouse and I might not have been there for 5 years and exactly the same stuff in the exact same space. Yeah. And that's just, at the end, it's going to eat you up. And you have to have sales per square feet, whether it's in a warehouse, whether it's in a retail front. Even when you're doing a live show, you only have a certain amount of space to put your long box for that show. Right. But when you see customers like this who are diehard Coliseum customers who are saying, oh my gosh, I get this great opportunity. There was a guy, we were there for 5 hours, and I kind of laughed at it. But he was in front of me when we were checking out, and we wanted to be respectful because we had so much stuff. And he walked up after 5 hours and he handed them a trade paperback. Oh. And it was $10 and he got for $2. And I'm thinking, this guy was there for 5 hours. Once again, what is your time worth?
Right. And he's like, I'm so excited that you guys have this book. And so I think giving your customers an opportunity to see all facets of your business. I will say this every year. Every year at Just James Comics, the number one most profitable section in the store was the dollar section. Yep. Which we always had 200 long boxes in the dollar section, and that's always been our best, most profitable spot in the store.
Yeah, these big sales like this are crazy.
To answer the Cosmics, how big is your collection? I have certain things that mean something to me. They're usually intrinsically not valuable. There's certain things I love that they only come around every once in a while. So I have like all of my Marvel fans of old Marvel mailer stuff. I have blacklight posters that mean something to me. I have statues that I like, oh yeah, I really want this. But everything's for sale if the price is right. I learned from one of my mentors that there's no such thing as a sacred cow. And actually, he pointed at Phil Boyle because Phil had an alien egg in his front window of his Orlando shop. And he said, yep, it's not for sale. He's like, why? It's dusty. It's cracking. Sell it and put something new in there. The customers want to see something new.
Yeah.
And that's, I kind of agree with that. You know, everything's for sale. I'm famous for selling. Brian, can you pull up just Pawn Shop Silver Surfer? And I sold this thing 12, 13 years ago. It sat in my front window for 5 years.
Is this the one that everybody has?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken has that at his store.
Yeah. So I had this in my front window for 5 years. I advertised at that movie theater. I asked them if I could have it. They gave it to me for free. I had it in my front window. Everybody loved it. Well, that's not, you got to find the one that's like a TikTok video or a YouTube video. That's me. So yeah, just pull that one up and I'll tell the story. So Hardcore Pawn here in Detroit, they wanted me to come on. I said, I have this. I forget what season it was, like season 5 of the show.
Here you go. Here, I'll play it.
Okay. And
well, I hear you guys buy silver.
We do.
That's the Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer.
Life size.
Tell me about it.
Well, this was a display for the Fantastic Four Rise of the Surfer movie. They made 1,500 of these. And this is literally just a regular mannequin and plywood board, but it is wrapped in a vac metal plastic wrap.
I mean, how'd you get it?
The movie theater I advertise at, and I own a comic book store. I said, dude, I really want this for my front windows. And this has been in my comic shop for 5 years. I want $2,000 for it.
Why?
Well, online, these things go for $3,000. Actually, Silver Surfer was voted in the top 50 recognizable comic book heroes in America. I mean, I really want $2,000 for it.
I am willing to buy this from you for $500.
No. I'm not gonna go below $1,000 on this.
Give me a second. Take it or leave it.
oh, pause it real quick. Pause it. Okay.
How much did he put down?
He puts down 900.
Okay.
But if you scroll back just a second or two and look over my shoulder,
okay,
and this is what I didn't know.
Okay. Hold on. Right there?
No, over my other shoulder. After he counts out the money.
Take it or leave it.
Right there.
Yeah.
So you can see that's less from Hardcore Pawn. He wasn't supposed to be in the episode. Right there.
Behind you, right there.
But he wants this for his store. I didn't realize it. That was a huge negotiating tactic I did not realize. I was ready to walk over $100. He wanted this thing. So if you watch, just go ahead and roll it forward and you'll see how it ends.
Make it 1,000.
900. 900 bucks. That's it.
Think I'm gonna have to walk. All right, well, it was a pleasure. We're gonna go surfing on home.
See you later.
That's awesome that you did that, bro.
Yeah. But watch.
That's awesome.
Now I find out. Now here, I'll tell you how I broke this down, but go ahead and keep going.
All right.
You want 950?
$1,000 and I'm perfect, exactly where I want it.
If you're gonna walk for $50, you're gonna pack it back up, you're gonna take it back.
I'll take it.
Deal. Thank you very much.
Okay, hit pause. So the second I turned around and the old man jumped in, I'm like, this is good TV. I was told this is just Ashley and Seth that you're dealing with. Les isn't going to be involved in this. I didn't see Les going back and forth behind me, right? And Les is like, I really want this, and the kids are about to screw this up. And then as I started going, he jumps in, and I'm like, oh, shit, this just got better. And so I'm like, okay, this makes great TV. They could cut me for not selling it. But if they buy it, it's definitely going to be in the episode. That was the #1 episode of that season. I still get my kids' friends, send them TikToks. Hey, isn't this your dad? There's 100,000 TikTok views. 5 million people watch that episode. What is the value?
4.1 million views on that video.
Yeah.
4.1 million views.
Yeah, and that's not how many viewed it on the episode when it ran live and on reruns. And then they did a best of show where Seth is like, they cut away and asked Seth what he's thinking. And he's like, this is one of the toughest negotiators I've ever had to deal with. I'm like, what's the value that you could put on that?
Yeah.
10 million people have watched me sell that.
Redhead said he didn't know you were an actor.
So, but the thing is here's the thing. We capitalized on it because we shot that 2 months before it aired. My website guy at the time, he wrote up this big Google Analytic keyword thing that when that episode ran, he put that on our website. Our website got all this traffic. Okay. Our sales on the website made thousands. People came into the store to meet the guy who sold the Silver Surfer. We saw tens of thousands of dollars were made in sales at the store. The opportunity of something like that to lose $1,000 from what you were asking. If you read the chat in that episode, it's like, oh man, that guy should have held out. Dude, I made so much more money selling that thing it was free $950 because I got it for free.
Yeah. Well, again, I had said that we have to pivot with our brand and we have to make sure we take advantage of our brand when the opportunities arise. There's a lot of people out there that wouldn't have hashtag, wouldn't have meta tag, wouldn't have got into algorithm wording and all that because why? Because they think that the show was enough. It's not enough. The show is going in a different direction. It's always the guy on his own Facebook page that meta tags his own page with his store name.
Yeah.
Right? You're already on your page, dude.
Jesse, you're one of the exceptions to that because you got the cool name.
Yeah, sure.
I use Wonder World Comics, but when you look up Wonder World Comics, Dennis Barger comes up.
Right.
If you look at Dennis Barger, Wonder World Comics comes up. So you're building two brands.
Right. But you got to understand there's a lot of store owners out there that don't want to be the face of their brand.
Right.
That's not, and we're not and that's okay. I'm not saying it's not wrong, but we're in a world that if you don't have any social awareness of your business in any direction, you're only going to be successful at one level. You won't continue to go up those levels.
There's just an extra level of selling that you can do at that point. Yep. I've had people sell me collections because they just wanted to sell it to the guy who sold the Silver Surfer or the guy who was on Toy Hunters. You know, that social, that stupid, and I've been on 4 reality shows now. Comic Book Men, Toy Hunter, Hardcore Pawn, and Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
That means something. I don't know what it means, but it's definitely something that you can capitalize on if you want to capitalize.
I want to talk about capitalizing on that because there's times where we think we're capitalizing on it or if somebody is capitalizing on it and they aren't. And a perfect example of that is, now I don't know all the story. I'm sure that I don't think Comic Tom is the person that that made a loss in this. This is all good for Comic Tom, but Comic Tom today did a special thing where he went into J. Scott Campbell's warehouse and for a whatnot special. and they sold a bunch of stuff with Scott in the warehouse. And they went through a bunch of books, and it was fascinating because if you think that Coliseum Comics warehouse was crazy, you should see J. Scott Campbell's warehouse. It's full of just books, signed, unsigned, and packs, unpacks. It's crazy. And so Tom went in there with a couple, I think Davis Ryder might have been with him, and they turned into this big whole thing. And that was all great for Tom and Davis and whatnot. But how great was it for Scott, right? And the reason why I asked this is I want to show you something. Shout out to Hell Destroyer Comics. He's showing a live sale of a 2018 cover that J. Scott Campbell, this is the original art, and this cover only sold for $6,250. Now, that sounds like a lot, but I want to remind you guys that the Nick Dragotta Absolute Batman cover that was just put out sold for $70,000. I'm telling you guys right now, that original art is worth more than $6,500.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you, but hold on though. That variant, and I don't know if it was that variant, but usually J. Scott would do a series of 9 variants for every one of his books. So you got to understand, J. Scott got paid probably, if I had to guess, $2,000, $3,000 to make that cover.
$4,500 to $5,000.
Okay, so he I don't know what tier he's on, but yeah, okay, let's just say $5,000. He got paid $5,000 to draw that. He sold 500 to 1,000 of those to his fans. At probably $30 or $40 a piece, Jesse. What?
Yeah.
So that book, let's just say it's $30 a piece.
So one guy bought the OA for that Mystique, Black Cat cover, and Deadpool and Wolverine art, all sold for $24,000. That's crazy. That's a major hit to me. That Black Cat cover, that crazy Black Cat cover, depending on which cover it was, if it was the crazy one that everybody's going nuts for,
I don't think it was. I think it was probably one of his.
I think what you have to be careful on, Brian, here is you're comparing 2 different auctions. So if this was to go on Heritage, right, for 45 days,
it doesn't even need to go on Heritage.
No. But I'm saying there's 2 different things. If you put this book up on Heritage and it went for auction for 45 days, it's selling for $10,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 because you have more eyes on it. Here, you're just doing a whatnot thing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
They promoted this or if they just said.
I didn't find out. So I saw the video of Comic Tom going through the warehouse. When I went to finally go look, the auction had already happened.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's my feelings on this. This is a major win for Whatnot, a major win for Tom, a major win for Davis. I don't know about Scott. And the reason why I say that is, and Scott doesn't really care. He like you guys said, he made enough when he was paid to draw this. But he could have sold this for at least 2 times that value, I feel like, if he would have sold it on Heritage.
Yeah.
And he sold multiple other OA stuff. Now again, there's different types of value that you get on stuff. There's the monetary value, and then there's that value of people going, "Oh, I can't believe J. Scott Campbell was put. This is so great,"
Okay. But can I pause you here, Brian? Just go back to the conversation before this.
Mm-hmm.
I got $950. Does anybody think in the chat $950 meant anything?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. But J. Scott Campbell got a 1-hour advertisement about him selling original art and all of these extra. And let's all be realistic here. Every time J. Scott sold out, that warehouse tells me he didn't necessarily always sell out. Okay, what that warehouse, the warehouse in that video told me was he's kept a lot of stuff. So whatever that 6,000 was, now everyone's talking about it. Who is this? Hell Destroyer Comics?
Yeah, this Hell Destroyer. Yeah, Sean.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is Hell Destroyer Comics is now advertising make sure you're at the next J. Scott Campbell sale.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're right now advertising.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Hey,
item
everybody.
is immaterial. The sale is immaterial. You had one winner,
You lose a
You
little
had-
bit of money.
but
You
you had
lose a-
5,000 watchers that are now talking about. Look at when we started the show, people were talking about this.
Yeah, that's
So-
all a win. That's all a win for Whatnot, Tom, and Davis. But
Yeah.
is that a win for Scott?
For
Yes.
J. Scott Campbell, absolutely.
Yeah,
because if
because
you
guess
know
what?
Go
He's
ahead.
going to go up against Rob Liefeld on a
No,
live stream.
no,
No,
that-
but what I'm saying is he's going to go, but he can go up against Rob right now. And guess what? He might actually do better than Rob Liefeld on a live stream now because everybody knows this is the kind of stuff J. Scott Campbell is selling.
How long do you have to wait in line for J. Scott Campbell to get an autograph at San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con?
Hour, 2 hours?
Hours or 2 hours.
I
So
don't
you
know.
go
I don't think you just to get his autograph. Like I saw people just walking up and getting his autograph. So I don't know.
There was a line. No.
There's
There was a
lines.
line wrapped around.
Yeah.
He had that line wrapped around behind.
So
Right.
you spend 2 hours to spend your 15 to 30 seconds. You have people here who got to spend an hour with J. Scott Campbell. And that is a treat. There is a famous picture I always show, and it's me in New York Comic Con, and I'm sitting with like Natalie Sanders, Tom from Big Dog Inc., Brett Cates. There's like 30 of us at the table, and I come in and they go sit right there, and I go, okay. And there's 2 empty seats, and there's a picture of this. And I'm sitting there waiting. And I'm like, oh, are we ordering? No, we have to wait for this last person. And it's J. Scott Campbell and Corey, his brother. And J. Scott Campbell sits next to me and he goes, "Are you Jesse James?" I go, "Yes." And he goes, "I'm J. Scott Campbell. Pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot of good things." I'll never forget that moment. So these are moments in time that make you part of that person's history and culture and tradition and makes it part of yours. So people are watching this saying, I was there when that sold. They might not have been the person that bought it, but they're now taking the JSC name and they're expanding it for J. Scott Campbell, being more open to the public is very, very important. Rob Liefeld is common. If you see Rob on a show, you've seen him 30 times on a show. But this is very unique. The biggest winner is J. Scott Campbell, and it has nothing to do with the money in this particular case. It's about branding in a new realm and a new platform.
Yep.
That's what's important.
So again, Smokey Collects is saying exactly what I think. He goes, so they're standing in a warehouse of thousands of extra books, signed, just bundled in giant packs, and these books go for what value? And you're right. J. Scott Campbell's autograph is really not that rare. It's not. There was packs of 25 books, packs that he had already signed, already shrink wrapped, just in boxes, just hundreds of them, and all of it. So his autograph, and I get it. You guys are saying like, how long do you wait for his autograph? I don't think his autograph is that rare anymore. Original art is.
Right, but that's not the autograph. What you're paying for is immaterial. It's the experience.
This is a couple sacrificial lambs.
Yeah.
This is a couple sacrificial lambs to build his brand on a new platform.
Yeah.
It's the same as me selling that surfer for $950. It's the same as when I went on Whatnot and gave away $1,500 books to one of 10 people who bought my mystery boxes.
Oh yeah.
You have to lose a little bit of money to make money.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, but again,
and Cosmic nails it in the chat. He's obviously trying to move old stock.
Right. Sure. Well, he has the opportunity to move old stock, and no one's given it. On Signature, folks, just to back up, just to give you some background how Signature works. So most of the time, I'm talking about most of the time, if something does not hit public, what an artist does is he'll lay out all 3,000 books and sign all 3,000 right there. So don't think he did a bundle, signed that bundle and did it, and then a week later. No, he signed all of them already. That's traditionally what they do. If you follow Brian Polito, Billy Tucci, you'll see they always show their signing boards, and it's all 3,000 books, and they just go down the thing. They hold some not signed for conventions and all that. I wanted to go back real fast because someone asked about what we do keep. I have 4 things that I've kept in my comic collection. I have my very first comic book, January 25th, 1982. That's my very first comic book, January 25th, 1982 at the Las Vegas Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store. My very first comic book I ever worked for, which was 1983, first appearance of Hawkeye, paid $20, mowed 6 lawns for it. And then I ran the line for Jack Kirby, and that's the book that Jack Kirby signed the inside of it for me, but that's the book there. And then I have 1,351 NFL Super Pro #1s. That's my private comic collection. Just to answer that. So
I collect miscuts.
Miscuts, there you go, yeah.
Yeah, books that when they went on the chopping block were off kilter enough that you could tell it was miscut at the printers. I don't know. It's something weird I love to collect.
Yeah. And so I think J. Scott Campbell, if we were talking about Rob Liefeld right now, we would be saying, oh, okay. But because J. Scott Campbell hasn't done one of these technically at this range, that's why it's technically a big deal. But anybody that does this for the first time, second time, third time, they're then get this big bump. And then what they have to do is they have to make the experience even bigger, right? Yeah. So that's the crazy part.
Yeah, the next time he's going to be doing sketches on books, and just like Liefeld and McFarlane and everybody else are doing.
Yeah. Well, I think, and the question is, I think, and Red Hood is talking about rare books and all that, but I mean it's technically rare books to who? The common guy, common collector, those are rare books. But for us in the business, it's just kind of knowing someone or being first in line. And so it's very interesting on how that's done. And when I look at a Whatnot sale, me and Brian have talked about this, will these sales count in the value of the books rising, but because it's not on eBay, right?
Well, that's what I said in the chat. Yeah.
So who's going to adjust these values of these prices?
Well, the problem is that comic books, I don't care. It's very rare. I would say that 99% of the books, or I would say 95% of the books that are sold on Whatnot are sold for a loss compared to what they sell for on eBay. Yeah. Auctions, period. I don't care who's selling them. Even Tom can sell books with a ton of people in his thing, and some of them might sell for more, but the majority of them are selling for less than what they sell for in an auction, just because
but
you don't have as many eyes on it.
It's what I've always been saying. If you sell a book on eBay, that book gets cataloged by Long Short. It gets cataloged by Ben Stein.
Cover price, yeah.
Yeah, it gets covered by cover price. If you sell a book on your website and you devalue it on the website, all of your books are eventually going to be on clearance, and people don't want that. People who own the books don't want that. But if you let a few fly on Whatnot and they go for a little less than what you sell it on the website or a little less than what they go for on eBay, the customer gets a good deal. You get the cash either way, and you haven't devalued your brand. You haven't devalued the book.
Yeah.
What do you mean by devalued? If people watch you selling that and they go, I just saw that book selling on Whatnot for $2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but J. Scott Campbell's not going to be selling for $2.
No, but what I'm saying is, even though it's not getting set in cover price or set in key collector or set in GPA, it's still devaluing your brand if people see that. If people say, I saw that book sold on Whatnot for $2 the other day and you want $40 for it, that's devaluing your brand.
You know what I tell people who send me a message on eBay? Hey, this just sold for $50 and you're asking $100. You should have bought that one at $50.
Of course that you say that, but it still devalues your brand. Perfect example is Ninja Funk. Ninja Funk sells their books all the time for the prices they want, but on Whatnot they sell for 40 cents, and it's devalued their brand for that original series, right?
Yeah, but but the problem with Ninja Funk, and I don't want to beat up on them too much, is that book was devalued as it came out. That book devalued in real time. When you have 50 people selling something at whatever price it goes for, just like with the mystery packs, you were only getting 125. Other people were getting 250. Other people got $2,000, $4,000 when they sold them on eBay.
Well, this is the interesting part, because Comic Ozzy just said Whatnot has reached out for info on some of my slab sales. They said it was for data acquisition for sold items. Now, here's what I think Whatnot would be smart. They're already doing auctions. They've already got auctions set up, just like eBay, where you can put stuff up for auction for a certain amount of days. They've got buy it now sales, and they've got, of course, the live sales. If they start a data acquisition, but in order to do that, they have to tell people you need to title your product correctly. You can't just say book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4.
But also, Brian, that opens up a lot of manipulation that they control. And I think a lot of people wouldn't trust that data as much as they trust GPA and cover price. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, they trust eBay data, and eBay's the same way, and cover price and GPA all comes from eBay.
No. eBay is definitely, I mean, yes, you can definitely throw some values off on eBay, but eBay is, Jesse says it all the time, 77,000 different sellers.
Yeah, but look what's happening with eBay Live right now. That's throwing off all those sales, because eBay Live has, these books that go up that sell.
The problem is, and technically I'm not even supposed to be talking about this, but when you take a Walking Dead 192 and you put it up there for $5 and you say, oh, by the way, you're then get this $40 variant for free if you buy this, and then you see that book auction at $47 and cover price is saying, wait a minute, Walking Dead
exactly
191 just sold for $45 because they don't know the whole story. So everything is skewed.
Yeah.
And so we live in a world, I don't think there's a small percentage that have value in their brand where the undercut of their product doesn't affect them as much, because that's just the cost of doing business. But then you do have people that try to regulate it and just hurt themselves, right?
But then also,
so
somebody who's in my situation, and I have so much stuff right now. If I wanted to tank markets, I could easily tank markets.
Yeah, but that's a snapshot, right?
Yeah.
So if you sell it out in all 90 days, then we have a snapshot for about 6 months, and then 6 months in a day, it all breaks out. Three Rivers, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you on what you said. As an eBay seller, a challenge in a good way.
What did he say? Seller, which one?
Three Rivers Comics.
Read it. No, but read the comment, because he has two different comments there.
As eBay seller, I don't meet my customers. I do local shows that are break even at best, just to meet them, interact, build goodwill, and hand out stickers, T-shirts, and build the brand. So my challenge to you is to connect with those folks on Facebook, on X, and make them part of your comic book family. People don't have to meet you to actually know you. I have been selling for 43 years now. People I have never met in my life, I consider part of my family. Because why? Because when it's my birthday, they wish me a happy birthday. When it's their birthday, I wish them a happy birthday. So my challenge to everybody out there is, don't think there's a barrier between a buyer and a seller just because you haven't met. Take that opportunity and make a great friendship. And when you do meet, it's even better. But you don't have to meet your customers. Just give them a good experience. Give them a good brand that they can be proud of and share it with their friends. That's how far up I am in messages. So I'm way behind. I know
good
that.
Shit.
Every time I see, go ahead.
Anything else that we want to talk about for tonight before we get to the end?
I just wanted to bring it back around. So what this episode was really about was capitalizing on every opportunity, even when it seems like it's a detriment, I'm not allowed to go to the biggest local show. There are plenty of benefits to not doing that. Taking a valued piece of my store, my front window display, that Silver Surfer. I've never had another one. And I got only $950, but we made thousands of dollars in revenue off the website. We made thousands of dollars of revenue in the store. However many years ago that was, I think it was 2012. I'm not for sure. 12 years later, I'm still a TikTok sensation. And I just go into the chats and just tag Wonder World Comics. That's me. And we still get people come into the store because they see all of these new forms of media that have spurned off of that 12-year-old reality TV show, $1,000 loss.
Yep. Red Hood, I'm always grouchy when I wear a Cheez-It shirt. So for some reason, it brings the grouchy part out of me. I do want to talk about that error book that you were talking about, Brian. You were talking about the error book that sold
with the dot on the
Oh,
shoulder.
yeah. So that was funny. Who was that posted that today? I think he's in the chat tonight. I think it was Weed Richards. Let me find that. So this was a funny post by Weed Richards on IG. He made this post. Shout out to our boy Mark Spears. Love Mark Spears. This is the Mark Spears Monsters #1 second print Trick or Treat variant that he did, and somebody had put up a copy calling it a mole air. They're calling it the mole air, MOLE, like a mole on your skin. And if you look at the book, there's a little mark on her shoulder on the book. Now, I don't know if that's from the printer or what, but he called it a mole and that this was a secret, and this was an air variant. And it's got 24 bids and it's at $404 right now.
Yep. So the rule of thumb is the rule of thumb is there's no such thing as a leak, right? Leaks are planned. There's no leaks. It's always planned. It's a brand thing that you do. You leak stuff. Why? To make the value of something more. In the comic book world, we have stuff that comes out of the printer that they can catch and not send you. They're supposed to catch it. And if you go back and you look at New 52 Green Lantern #1, right, with the tear error, which is just a printing error, they want stuff like that to get out.
Look at that. There's a bunch of people trying to jump on the train now.
Yeah, because there's a mass amount of them. And I'm not saying Mark Spears did this on purpose, but when stuff like this happens, it's a great opportunity to get that book to sell one more copy. And it's just part of that leak theory that an error book, the same thing. They're just trying to get more pub for that title.
Well, we're going to have to find out from Mark himself. So I'm going to try and get him on the show at some point this week to jump on, because this is absolutely crazy. It looks like
now, here's the thing. See how many people sold it before they realized it.
Here's one right here.
$750.
$25. It sold for right here.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a little extra ink.
It's an ink error.
Yeah. $404 this one sold for.
Yeah. So technically, folks, just so you know how it works, if you make 500 copies, that means there's 525 copies made. All right. But only 500 count against the actual print run. But it's 5% overage of anything ever made. And that's supposed to cover these errors on the thing, right? So obviously there's more than 15 of them. But it's Dennis knows this. What happens when Diamond used to send us a error letter? Do not sell these books. Send these books back.
They go right back on this little shelf. And I destroyed them, Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a book destroyed in the history of destroyed books ever, right?
Yeah, I remember they had a Legion of Superhero issue.
Yeah.
Where they accidentally made Lightning Lad white, and he was supposed to be black in the new incarnation, or vice versa. I can't remember.
Sure.
and they sent out a rushed panic, please destroy these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just forces them to put it out the day after and say, no, I forgot to ship this out. This is on eBay.
I will give everybody a little piece of advice, because when they do that, they send you the new one and it looks just like the old one.
Yeah.
Definitely put some kind of label on your bag and board so that 5 years from now, when that comes back into inventory, you don't have to go on Google and figure out what the error was, etc.
Oh yeah. What is it?
They'll mix right into the regular
Right.
inventory.
What is the there and I know we're getting out, but what is the error on Spider-Man #1? Isn't there?
It's
There's a
it's a
green-
blue
Yeah.
on the interior.
It's amazing how many of those I've bought, and I'm just like racing to that page.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Well, the same thing like the slur issue of Wolverine,
Yeah.
or the
Dazzler
naked.
#1.
I've
Spawn
never
#1.
gotten a naked Elektra ever.
Yeah, I've never seen one either. And I really want the douche League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Marvel douche. Have you guys ever seen that?
No.
So on the back of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen #5, I think it is,
Yeah.
there's an advertisement. And back in the day, there used to be a brand of douche called Marvel douche. And they put it on there, and then DC was like, I don't think, because I think it was a Vertigo book at that time, and DC's like, I don't think we could do that. So they pulled it back. And the only ones that got sent out were in the UK, and it's a really rare recalled book. By the way, you guys, I'm going to say this on a bunch of shows this week. I have been trying to get a hold of the person that started recalledcomics.com for a while now. Their email contact us thing has been shut down since May 19th of whatever year. And I want to be able to get a hold of that person to try and bring them on the show, because I think that's one of the greatest sites for comic books on the internet. So if anybody out there knows who started and who owns the recalledcomics.com site or Recalled Comics website, please get a hold of me and put us in touch with each other.
That's pretty relevant right now, because I don't know how many people know about this, but Mattel just released their entire line of Wicked dolls, Barbie-sized dolls of the Green Witch and the Prince or the Queen and all this stuff. And they accidentally, on the back of every package, put, go visit www.wicked.com for info. And that led them to a porno page. And I could have bought as many of these as I wanted.
They're only selling for about $125 for the pair.
Yeah.
So, and then
I know what's going to happen. They're going to recall all of these.
They already recalled them. It should have been wickedmovie.com. But as you can see, they're selling $120 for the pair.
Yeah. The problem is this is short-term gain. They're going to recall all of these. They're going to go back to one place. They're going to put a sticker over the back of them. They're not
just like Star Wars.
These.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to have a sticker on the back of it that you can easily Goo on off at some point.
Yep.
Unless they go in and actually cut every one of those and then put the sticker over it. Whatever. It's cute, but I have better things to do than chase this stuff, but it's a cool thing.
Yeah. It's not that big of a see, that's the other thing that people don't realize. It's nice to be able to go and buy this stuff and say, I'm going to make a profit on it. But what is the profit worth to you? You got to go out to Target or Walmart, search for these dolls. You find them, you buy them for $25 or $35 a piece, right? You bring them home. Then you got to spend the time to set them up on eBay. And then if they sell and you sell them for $120, you get $70 profit on that, but you're not factoring in how much it's going to cost you to ship, the shipping material, the time, all that stuff. Is it worth that $70 profit?
What's going to happen when the new batch comes out and it's just got a sticker on it and everybody can remove these and the price all plummets and people want to return it? And then you've got a 45-day return window that you have to deal
look
with.
at this. Kohl's covered it up on theirs.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's funny about what Brian just said, it's technically an oxymoron to every single person who owns a comic book store that owns a collectible store. They started off with one item saying, I'm going to go buy a pack of baseball cards and I'm going to sell it. I bought it for 25 cents. I'm going to sell it for 50 cents. And at some point, they either say what Bryan just said, it's not worth my time, or they get hooked. So there's that small percentage that did start off by just chasing this one item.
Well, but also you have to look at economies of scale. When you talk recalled comics, you're talking comic books that have between a 5,000 and 100,000 print run, or 250,000 back in the day. There's 1 million of every single one of those. How many people are out there that want to buy the porno website Barbie doll?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. A perfect example. One of the first toys when I was coming up as a toy dealer was Earring Magic Ken. They produced a Ken doll that they somehow worked in a special necklace around his neck that they saw a lot of people wearing. And it turned out it was a cock ring. And then when Mattel was notified, hey, you put a cock ring around Ken's neck. And they're like, huh? And of course, there's one guy in the, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that, who approved it and probably created it. So they recalled that. And it was like a $15 Barbie doll that went for like $30 to $40, and it was cute to have. It still goes for like $30 or $40. 25 years later, 30 years later.
Yeah. It's crazy.
All right. My final thought is for everybody, for all you Taco Bell fans, you can now go to Taco Bell and get the original color cup that they had when they first opened up. That has been a hit sensation for Taco Bell. So go out if you like
the
nostalgia.
shit brown and baby shit yellow.
Yeah, exactly. With the things in
the
it.
beef. The beef Mexi Melt does not taste as good as it did 30 years ago.
Same with the Mexican pizza.
Yeah, Mexican pizza is so cheap now. It is crazy.
Yeah. Without the green onions or the black olives, it is not the retro.
Well, I think the problem they made with the Mexican pizza, unlike the McRib, is you can get the Mexican pizza all year long now. And I think that was a big mistake. McRib has hit Europe, and it's huge. It hits all the McDonald's at the end of the month, and I guarantee you they will sell trillions of them, millions to me alone. And what the funny thing, and I'll end on this, is how when we talk about pivoting, how when McRib comes out, I can't tell you how many people will tag me in their McRib post because I've built my brand off of McRibs for some reason. And so that's how you brand, folks. Connect with people, not just in comics, but just in real life. So that's my end statement.
Amen.
Yeah. So every bad opportunity is a good opportunity, can be turned into a good opportunity. The opportunities are out there. You just have to figure out how it benefits you.
There you go. You guys, 70 of you watching till the end, thank you so much. If you haven't hit that like button, do me a favor, hit it now. If you're not subscribed, we are, let me see this, hold on here. I think we are like 75 people away. Yeah. We are 73 people away, you guys, from 3,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed and you're watching this on the replay or in the live feed, please subscribe. It really helps us out. It's free. It costs you nothing. And we're close to that 3,000 subscriber mark.
But here's the thing. And I don't know a lot about this stuff. Jesse and I don't get paid here. Brian's the one who gets paid if any money's made. Just do us a favor and take a snapshot of this and share it on your socials and say, guys, if you love comic books, you got to go check out this show. And go subscribe to these guys.
Yeah.
So just help us out by spreading the word of mouth.
Yeah. And for those of you guys that always wonder how much a person that does YouTube get paid, let me go ahead and give you a quick show on that.
Don't make them cry. We've been telling them about making money all night. This will make them cry.
Yeah. So, this is how much I've made in estimated revenue in the last 28 days, $400. Okay. Now, they're going to take 30% off the top of that, right? And they take that. And then taxes come out of that. Now, let me tell you how much it costs to put on a show. I think I pay like $80 a month for StreamYard. I pay $50 or something a month for the Premiere, Adobe Premiere. And then, of course, you have all the money that you put into your microphones, to everything else. It costs a lot of money.
This because you guys were bitching about my breathing.
Yeah. So, and as you can see, $400 in the last 28 days, and I've done, and in that 28 days, we've put out, let's see here. How many live views? In the last 28 days, we've done, I don't know. Where is it? It doesn't say, but we've done a lot of shows in the last 28 days. So if I go to maybe all, let's see here. Anyways, you guys can see, you guys can tell, you guys know what I'm saying.
28 days.
It's a lot. Each one of these spikes, is a show. So, it's a lot of work, and I enjoy it. I don't do it for the money because you don't make money in this. You actually lose money in this. And I have fun, and I make new friends. I get to hang out with old friends. And this has become my LCS. This has become the place where I used to go into Jesse's shop every Wednesday and hang out and bullshit with people, or, every Saturday and bullshit with people for a couple hours. Now I do it here on Beyond Wednesdays. So that is what this has become, and I think it's become that for a lot of people, not just the people who create the content with me, but also the people who watch it with us. It's become their comic shop. So,
and where else are you going to hear me say cock ring?
Yeah, that does include super chats, Alex. That includes super chats and memberships. So,
and the crazy part about it, as we watch real numbers, if you're really into number crunching and all that, legacy media has dropped 50%. Yeah. And it's not that people aren't listening anymore. They're listening to shows like this. And that is the more important part of this direction, that this is now becoming more legacy orientated. Yeah. And that's what makes this exciting for the future. And for the comic book world, I'll leave it at this. You're not going to find a lot of people doing industry shows. It's a challenge to do industry shows because we are very limited in how far out we can reach on a story, because we do have, policies that we have to follow as retailers.
But you look at, and I know we're going to wrap up here, but I just want to reiterate this. Bryan does this show to increase his reach. It helps his Whatnot shows. He live streams them and does, this at the same time. Jesse created the Comic Book Shopping Network to increase his reach. I did things like the reality shows. I used to do a Facebook live show every day. These are things that if you care about your brand, if you care about your reach, you'll just do. And I'll leave you with one quote from Gary Vaynerchuk, one of my inspirational gurus. He said, "One is better than none." If you do a show and one person watches you, just one, you're going to connect with that one guy, and that's better than you just sitting at home bitching about something else that day.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. All right, you guys. Much love to everybody out there. A ton of love to all the people that hang out with us each and every one of these shows. We'll see you guys next week for episode 40 of the Industry of Comics. Adios.